Stand by. Contact.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on most social media platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism. And let's get into it. We got a special guest. I'll let him introduce himself. I call him Dan Top. They call him Top, but he'll do the honors. Sir, the floor is yours. We're going to tell the listeners a little bit about you, background, professional bio, and so to speak, duty station, deployments, things of that nature, some of the collateral duties that you did while you were active duty. Did it?
All right. Well, my name's Dan Tribble, and I was born in March of 1963. Graduated high school in 1981 in Park, Kansas. Was born in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah.
What's that?
Dan, real quick, I'll edit this part out. Are you on your phone?
Yes.
Is it portrait or landscape?
I'm in portrait.
Can you be in landscape for me?
I can do whatever you need me to do, bro. How about that?
Did it flip?
It did for me. You didn't.
I know it didn't. So do me a favor. We'll start again. Can you back out? And then before you go in, before you just click join, you're going to be in that little ready room. You're going to flip your phone and it'll go sideways. Make sense?
All right. Too easy. Back it out.
Okay. There you are. Perfect. Let's, okay. I don't know why there's two screens. Can you see three screens or what?
I see
there
two.
It goes. There it goes. Perfect. Here we go. It's recording. Here we go. 5, 4, 3. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on most social media platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism. We're going to get right into it. We've got a special guest. I'm going to let him introduce himself. I call him Dan, but they call him Top. Sir, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you've done in this country. Introduce yourself, professional bio, where you're from, family, duty stations, collateral billets, deployments, things of that nature. Not super in detail, but enough meat and potatoes so we get interested in Dan.
Yes, indeed. Well, my name's Dan Tribble, retired First Sergeant, United States Army Field Artillery. Was born in March of 1963. Grew up in Kansas City. I have a beautiful wife and 3 daughters and 6 beautiful grandkids. I went in the Army in January of 1988 in field artillery out of Fort Sill, Oklahoma. After basic NIT, I attended the United States Army Airborne School, where I went to Germany for 3 years. After Germany for 3 years, I PCSed Fort Campbell, the home of the Air Assault, where I was pretty much most of my time there. I was a field artillery howitzer section chief on an M1 Deuce howitzer. From there, I went to the United States Army Drill Sergeant School in Fort Benning, and then back to Fort Sill, an Army Drill Sergeant, training America's finest to be soldiers. After that, I PCSed Fort Knox, where I worked with the reserve component, teaching them how to be better field artillerymen themselves. And then I went to Germany right after that, in 2001. Well, while I was stationed in Germany, we got selected to go to OIF 1. So I was with 1st Armored Division, 2nd Brigade, 1st Armored Division. And what we did was 1 year of dismounted combat patrols in downtown Baghdad along Haifa Street. So a lot of the folks who probably listen know exactly what I'm talking about. And then once 1st Armored Division was extended, my platoon was selected to be the hot field artillery platoon for the division, or for 2nd Brigade. And we got to actually do our jobs in combat for an additional 3 months, firing rounds as close as 2.5 kilometers and as far out as 30 kilometers. That was a blast. From there, PCS back to the States, Fort Hood, Texas, where again I did the ACRC thing. But this time we were doing lane trainings for folks going to Egypt, Kosovo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. So we ran different lanes each time. And from there, I PCSed back to Fort Sill after I was promoted to the rank of to Master Sergeant, was selected for First Sergeant, became a battery First Sergeant of an MLRS firing battery, which is awesome. While I was there, we got picked to go back to Iraq, where we worked detainee ops from July of '08 to basically July of '09. Came back early from that deployment because I got offered the job as our fire brigade first sergeant, which I did, the senior first sergeant of the brigade. Did that for a period of time, and then I retired. But the key point for me is after I came back from that second deployment, that's when I started going and seeking out mental health, because I knew something was wrong, and something had been wrong since I came back from Iraq in 2004.
Well, I got to say, you are a walking lineage book. Whenever your memoir comes out of Dan Tribble, let me know. I'll be the first one to purchase it. Again, I always have to preface, thank you for your service. We do appreciate it. Anybody previous to me creates a standard, sets a standard for excellence, and we do appreciate it. I gotta ask, you retired. What was the catalyst for retirement? Was it just time to give up, time to hang it up, or was there something that kind of broke the camel's back?
I was 47 years old. I was still one of the fastest guys in my unit out of a unit of 187. And come to find out that I'd had a broken foot for 9 years. So they slapped a cast on my foot for a month to get it to heal. And I always knew what I needed to do after suffering an injury to kind of recover. Well, the recovery wasn't happening like I needed it to. I wasn't getting my speed back. Things weren't recovering like they should. So that's when I decided, maybe it's time for me to go ahead and retire, because if I can't lead from the front, both mentally and physically, I don't need to be leading my troops.
That's good. That's actually for those dinosaurs that are still in. If you can't lead from the front, take some notes from Dan. It's facts. I'll tell you what, if I can't lead from the front, or at least put enough effort in, it's probably time to hang it up. Right. That's a good point. I'll tell you what, drill sergeant, huh? How'd you like that?
I enjoyed the fact that I got to train civilians to become soldiers. That was an absolute blast. Watching them grow from the day we picked them up at the reception battalion to when they walked across the stage as a full-fledged cannon-wearing soldiers ready to go out into the regular army and do good and great things. It was amazing. Personality-wise, it was a bit of a stretch for me because I'm not naturally a mean person all the time. I'm more of a trainer, but I was successful at what I did. Naturally you run into those soldiers that you trained as your career progresses. I was still called drill sergeant almost every time. I was like, nah, I'm not drill sergeant anymore. I'm just smoke. I'm just gunny. I'm just first sergeant, whatever. But I'm not a drill sergeant anymore. So, but I enjoyed it. It was great.
It's good. It's good to walk. It's been a couple of years now since I left the depot, but it's always good to interact with some of the recruits that you trained, and they'll call you out of random. I didn't even know you had my number, or how you got my number, but they'll call you and they'll see you at Target or Walmart or whatever they have you.
That's right.
It's quite an experience for them, and it's funny, and it feels good to see them so excited to see somebody that impacted them in that kind of way. So I agree with you.
I was very fortunate because my drill sergeant was a first sergeant in the training brigade where I was a drill sergeant at. So I had seen him for almost 8 years. And for me to be wearing the hat that he wore just 7, 8 years prior to that, I mean, listen, I was all about I was puckered up talking to my old drill sergeant, and I'm wearing the campaign hat. But it was all great fun. We ended up having a really good relationship until he ended up retiring, and he told me, man, it's time to go. It's time to go.
Yeah.
It was great.
That's good. That's awesome. Married, kids?
I've been married for be 23 years in March. 3 daughters, 6 beautiful grandkids. Yeah, life's been great to me. My wife is prior service. She was combat camera when she was in. She's my strength. She's my anchor. She'll tell me straight how it is. She's tough. She's smart. She gives it as good as she gets. And my 3 daughters are much the same.
Yeah, that's good. You're a girl dad. That's good. And a blessing because you're a granddad now. That's awesome.
They
That's
call
a
me
long
Papa
life. That's good. That's funny. That's all I want. I don't want anything else. I just want to be able to walk my daughters across the aisle and then have watch my kids have grandkids so I can be a granddad.
Yeah,
Don't
that
want-
was a tough one, walking the girls down the aisle.
Yeah.
That was a tough one.
All three or just one of them?
All three. Well,
Congratulations. So you're nestless, huh?
yeah. My oldest and youngest just turned 37 and 33 a couple of days ago. They share the same
happy
birthday,
birthday,
4 years apart.
That's awesome. That's wild. I'll tell you what, I heard a statistic. One of the loneliest people are, there's a couple, but the one that stands out only because I'm speaking to you is nestless couples. Isn't that crazy?
Well, here's the thing. I'm fully retired. My wife's fully retired. So whenever our kids need us, we can pick up and go right away. So yeah, and we actually just moved my youngest daughter back in with her son. So we're not empty nesters so much anymore. But it's been amazing having my daughter and my grandson back with us.
Awesome. What's some of obviously you did a lot of time everywhere. Army, you got some cool duty stations. I'm a little zealous about that one. We don't have as cool duty stations as you, I will say. But I got to ask, there's always, as you progress in the ranks, there's always some leadership, not regrets, but some leadership, what's it called? Challenges as a senior enlisted. Give us some of those and give us some of the after action, so to speak. At least one. Say, hey, this is what happened here at this duty station. This is what we encountered. This is how we tackled it as a battalion, as a company, so on and so forth.
Well, I'm going to give you probably my biggest challenges when I was an HHP Fires Brigade First Sergeant. So being the senior First Sergeant in the brigade, so we kind of fell in between the firing batteries and the battalions below and my brigade command. All right. So as a first sergeant and as my battery commander, a captain, we were kind of picked on a lot because we weren't the majors and lieutenant colonels, nor were we the sergeant majors. Okay. But we were still senior in respect to others. So probably we kind of got treated in like the brigade meetings. We got treated a little funny where people really didn't respect what we had to say. But me being the kind of first sergeant I always came prepared. Always made sure my commander was prepared. I knew my brigade sergeant major had my back, so being tactful, I would gently let the battalion commanders and some of the sergeant majors know the error of their ways and how things really were going to be. But having the supporting brigade sergeant major and the brigade commander was really a benefit. But, once you prove your mettle to your peers and your superiors and your subordinates, then you really start getting the support of everybody, which is the key thing. Is you have to manage the personalities above and below you. Okay, you have to understand why they're doing the things they're doing above and below you. You have to understand this so you can understand why they're thinking the way they're thinking. All right, and then once you get all that figured out, then everything actually really worked really well. We kept everybody informed, didn't have any issues. After that, but managing personalities, basically from when I was a second chief all the way up till I retired. Okay, because everybody's different. Everybody comes from different walks of life. Everybody had different family things going on. So some didn't have a strong male character in their family, and they resented like their squad leader, their section chief, their platoon sergeant. They had issues with them until say, hey, dude, what's really going on with Treble? Tell me what's going on in your head so I can understand you better. And once you kind of come down to their level and figure out what they're all about, that's when things really started clicking. So that's one thing that took me a few years to learn, as I was a sergeant, second chief, staff sergeant, all the way up through the ranks. Everybody was different. But once you understand everybody, life got really a lot better and a lot easier for all.
Absolutely. As a senior enlisted, you got to be the buffer between the higher echelon of leadership to the lower, the deck plates, if that makes sense. I got to ask, I was talking to a guy, retired colonel, Army Colonel Stephen Leonard. He was talking about my ideologies everywhere I went was do right by people, because if you do right by them, they'll do right to the organization, kind of full circle. And that's kind of the same thing that I kind of treat. That's how I operate, so to speak. If it's good for the Marine, it's good for the Marine Corps. Why? Because if the Marine's taken care of, the mission will be taken care of, and they'll take care of me. And so to speak, How many times, as you had that first sergeant billet, was there times you had to choose the institution versus the person, or vice versa?
Well, kind of the way I looked at things, kind of what was put in me and instilled in me was it was mission first, people always. Okay. And they weren't to me, mission first and people always, one wasn't above or lower than the other. They were both the same. Okay. In order to accomplish the mission, you got to take care of your people. Okay. You've got to do that. Make sure that they're fit, they're healthy, they've got all the kit that they're supposed to have. They're qualified with their primary weapon. They know how to shoot their howitzers, you know. But in order for them to be able to do that, you've got to make sure they're put in a situation where they are able to train without interference in order to accomplish the mission. And that goes as far as, the family support groups, getting the families involved so the families understand what the soldier's going through. So I'm not getting those phone calls in the evening time from a service member's spouse wondering, what's going on with my husband? Why is this happening? So it's mission first, people always, and it's everything's on the same level. They both interact and got to have both in order to get everything accomplished.
Going into your deployments into OIF-1 and then the second one that you went through, everybody has a little bit of adversity going to while they're there and then returning from. Talk about some of the adversity that you faced on both deployments, that either made you resilient or you struggle now with it because of it.
To speak primarily OIF-1, we had done our annual train up in Germany, our field artillery skills and all that. And it wasn't until the 2003 January, February timeframe we found out we were getting deployed. We weren't sure exactly what our mission was going to be. So there was a lot of, we didn't know. So we go through our pre-deployment, get spun up. We fly to Kuwait. We're still at whatever camp we were at. We still didn't know what we were doing. Then it comes down, next to last week of April. We're going to Baghdad to do dismounted combat ops. We're a field artillery self-propelled firing battery. We are not infantry. So there's a lot of consternation, a lot of worry from us because this is not what we've done. Well, one of our operations sergeant was a former Army Ranger. He'd been in the Ranger Brigade. Well, he single-handedly trained everybody in the battalion on how to do dismounted combat ops, from room clearing and patrolling and all this. So, and that's all we did until we actually went into Baghdad. And that was a wheeled convoy where we eventually relieved 1st Battalion 9th Field Artillery in downtown Baghdad. It was the old Mathana airfield right there. So, yeah, there was a lot of stress of going into Baghdad, doing a job that we really weren't trained to do. And
you think go ahead, finish.
And we did it well. We even had our brigade sergeant major was going to try and get us all the combat infantry badge. Well, that was an impossibility because we were not assigned as infantry. But I said, just for you saying that and appreciating the job that we did, that speaks a lot about you and how you felt about us. Because they had 2 mechanized infantry battalions and a tank battalion. They were on security in the green zone. That's what they did in their tanks and their Brads. While they had us and our M109 Paladins out doing patrols in downtown Baghdad. So, but yeah. But we accomplished the mission. Unfortunately, I did lose one guy to a RPG in September of 2003. Does it stick with me? Yes. Is there anything I can do to get so it doesn't? Nope. There's nothing I can do. But I've learned to deal with it, and I still stay in touch with folks that were in that battalion with me, in that battery, and we still talk about it. But it's more about me helping them through their struggle. And, their sense of, why not me? Why didn't this happen to me? Survivor guilt. There's some of that. But we're here for a reason. You survived for a reason. Your mission is not accomplished. God has a higher He's got bigger things for you right now. Okay. You're here to help people deal with their issues that you've already experienced. That's what it's all about. Okay. So don't sweat that stuff, man. You're here for a reason. You're here to text back and forth with me on Facebook Messenger talking crazy stuff. You know, a lot of folks don't get it these days. Just talking helps them out. So
And COVID really messed all that up. No face to face. Everything's over phone, and you don't get the emotional, tangible things you get from actually being in the presence of people. So I get that. I truly do. I don't think, people get it, period, but only the ones that actually walk the walk and experience the walk. So I will say, you mentioned mental health, right? And that kind of my question played into, I rolled into that. You said you deal with it, you learn how to live with it. You might not be struggling with it, right? But what did you do that you became resilient in that adversity? And now how are you dealing with now, or living with it now, right? Somebody else that's kind of dealing with it and trying to figure out how to cope with it.
This is my story. Like I said, I started going to see mental health by 2009, 2010 before I retired. I knew I had an issue. So I am an active duty first sergeant going seeing mental health. Back in the old days, that was taboo stuff. Well, I had no problems putting it out in front of my formation. Say, hey, some of y'all got issues too. Y'all need to go get help. Well, I was doing the medication thing. So, medication's the fix for me to get better. It's not. I didn't know this. So I struggled, caused problems with my wife. I would start arguments and fights. So fast forward to 2017, we moved from Oklahoma, retired, living here in Alabama. And I always seem to have my issues in November, my big time issues, where I would just lose my mind. Started to fight, and I knew I was wrong. I just couldn't stop myself. So the next morning, I did a walk in the VA mental health. Now, keep in mind, I'm already seeing a mental health professional in the VA. Best psychiatrist I've seen, his last name was Islam. Dr. Islam, greatest doctor ever. So 2 weeks later, I have my regular appointment, and I looked at him and says, Dr. Islam, I've come to realize that medication is only a small percentage of the fix. I need to get more help. Long story short, got with a social worker, did individual counseling. I had a workbook I had to do on things and how that were happening to me. Like going for my next appointment, we talked about how I dealt with it. And still to this day, I had that workbook logged in my head. So if I have any issues, I kind of go through the steps. All right. It really helps me out a lot. Am I perfect? No. Will I ever be perfect? God, I hope not. Because with my issue, I tell people mental health is like alcohol abuse or drug abuse. Until you yourself realize and understand that you have a problem, you're not going to get the help. And it's always going to be a fight. I still have issues where I will actually still flash back to Iraq, downtown Baghdad. I could be on my motorcycle. I could be doing anything, but I will still have flashbacks. But I deal with those flashbacks a lot better now than I did back then. Now I'm capable of probably catching most of them very quickly. And then I can laugh it off. It was like, okay, well, what caused that? And the last one I had was actually on my bike. I'm riding with the group I ride with and riding back into Birmingham. And the light just sent me to downtown Baghdad while I'm on my motorcycle on the highway. So we get to the place we were going to, and I talked to my my chapter commander. I said, I just got to get this out. I said, I had a flashback on my bike. He put his arm around me and said, you okay, man? I said, yeah, I'm okay. It kind of caught me off guard because I haven't had it. It's always going to be a struggle. It's always going to be a fight. I'm not hyper vigilant anymore. I'm not any of that, but I still have the issues, but I'm always fighting every day to try and get better or to stay good. I'm trying to help others out to understand where they're at. And I was trying to educate my social worker too. Today, this is what's going on with me. And she would say something, hold on a sec. Well, you just told me this a week or two ago. So why are we changing now? She says, oh, well, you're right. She says, I don't mind failure. Failure means you learn something. You just get an opportunity to do it right a second time. So instead of something happened to me and I was to regress, okay, so what did we learn from this? So I'm a happier person. My wife appreciates a lot more. I'm more sociable. I don't go into those dark places anymore. And I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying my family, my friends, my kids. I'm there to help anybody out. And that's why I got with the group guys that I ride with now. The full members are all combat vets. And then we have other members that are guys that were in the military but never got deployed. And we have family members. So we're all a group of like-minded people who are there to help each other out. And we've had some members who have come to events we've had and have having some real issues, and they've had to separate themselves from the group. Well, since a lot of us have been through the same thing, we're there to help this guy get through the dark time and get back to having fun at this event.
That's good. That's really good. I do appreciate you being vulnerable. I do appreciate you being transparent. Yeah, I do appreciate you letting them know that everybody deals with it and it's fixable. There's no reason to go high and to the right, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
There's no reason to do that. You know what I mean? Everything's fixable. And that ripple that you create by that choice you make, you don't know where it ends and where it's going to stop. You don't know who it's going to affect and who it's not going to affect. And it's a lot deeper choice than you really think it is.
Well, the biggest thing is you got to get through, especially the male ego. You've got to get them to understand, say, hey, dude, your ego is keeping you from getting better. Admit that you've got a problem, and that way you can get help. And that's where a lot of folks are right now, because the military doesn't help you when you get out of the military. They don't help you to, how am I going to overcome this? If you don't do it yourself, pretty much you're going to be out there flapping. It's, knowing the right organizations and knowing the right people to talk to. If you don't know, ask the question. And that's basically what, between my wife and I and others, we know that's how we've gotten through and got a lot of things fixed and got a lot of help for myself and for others is, just hold your ego down a little bit, admit you have an issue, and then let somebody come in and help you. So crush the ego for a little bit, get some help, and you be golden. And it's not an overnight process either. I've been struggling with it now for 15 years, actually 22 years since I got back from Iraq, 21 years. But I'm good. I'm in the best place I've been in my life right now.
That's good. Amen to that. So it's really good. It's good that you're around for your grandkids. It's good you're around for your daughters. You're around for your wife, for your family. And then the service members, veterans that you're helping now. If you weren't here, who would be doing it? You know what I mean? Who would be in those shoes? So that's good that you're doing it. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I got to ask, what's one of the things that you miss from service?
Honestly, there's not a whole lot I miss right now other than the camaraderie, or being out there on my field artillery howitzers, shooting. I'd worked as a contractor for 3.5 years after I retired, basically doing what I did as howitzer section chief. That was a blast. But you know what? There comes a time where you just kind of it was real. It was fun. I'm getting older. My likes, I'm off in different directions, wanting different things out for myself. The people are always there. That's the one thing I like is a lot of the folks that I've met. That's the one thing I miss. But it's kind of that fair thing to say because I still have a lot of them. We're connected through social media in some way or we still get together over the phone every now and then. But really, I don't like being cold, didn't like being wet, didn't like being away from home, and this is all hindsight. But it was all what I chose to do. So I miss the people. The people is really what I miss.
How was your transition in 2017? Was it rough?
When I retired or 2017?
Yeah, retired.
Personally, actually to get out of the Army, I greased all those skids, and that was an easy peasy thing to do. All right. Having been, most people, if you're a senior NCO, you know all the agencies really well. So, and they know you, so that helps a lot. But getting out was easy. And I know that the Army, probably the Marine Corps too, they've been working on, helping the service member, do resumes, find jobs, do all this stuff. I know that's out there. How much has it improved over the last 14 years? I have no idea. All I tell people is use your GI Bill and go to school. I finally graduated with my bachelor's degree. Gosh, 6 or 7 years ago, and actually started working on a master's degree. But the job I had was, it was so time consuming that I didn't get a chance to finish it. But now the military will never, ever really get that locked in on helping people transition out completely in a good way. Because again, everybody's an individual. Everybody has those different wants and needs. You know, you can only go over the top and hopefully you can get them shoved off in the right direction. I'm not bad mouthing anybody. You know, you and I are very different. Marine Corps background, Army background. Your needs are different than my needs. You can't cater to everybody individually.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's up to the individual member to do their research and get what they need out of getting out of the military.
Yeah. And take ownership of take the bull by the horns. Take ownership of the transition. I heard that before from a good friend of mine, Randall Parks, and he said the same thing. The military, the DoD, just gives you the baseline. It's just a check in the box. They got to make sure that they give you the basic foundation, because you know as an individual what it is to have initiative, what it is to have good judgment, what it is to execute the mission. The mission is transition, execute, and you know how to do that. So I agree. I agree with you there. Take ownership of
And the key
transition.
thing you said is it's a mission. It's never end a mission. It's always a change of mission. Just because you're out of the military now, it's a change of mission to a civilian life. So what's my mission now? So everything's a mission.
Perfect. There you go.
And that's the one thing that was drilled into me when I was as a young troop. It's never end a mission. It's always change of mission.
Dan, I like you. Just straight to the point, meat, potatoes. It's effective, right? No, none of this. No weaving. Sure, I love it. Dan, you're doing good things. Great wealth of knowledge. Let me ask you, how did we come about? How did this session come about? I would love to know.
My bride on X.
Here, bro.
My wife, Denise, she's been on X. She likes to get on there and somehow you and her got connected. Because I haven't been on X. I'm generally not a big social media guy. I don't post a whole lot. I pretty much keep to myself. My wife keeps me in a loop of what's going on in the world. And she told me about you and said, you know, if this is something you want to do with them, you know, here's his contact, get in contact with him. I was like, you know what? I'd like to do that. I really would. I think I might say something that somebody picks up on and says, hey, you know, he's right. You know, I'm going to be okay. You know, because my experience, for me, it might be unique. Somebody else might add something similar. But anytime you can help a service member out, whether it's with mental health or transitioning, whatever the case may be, hey, I'm all about it. I'm all about it. And I've enjoyed the experience to this point. It's been really good. You know, I've listened to your podcasts. I've listened to some folks, and I'm just like, you know, that's not really how I do my delivery. You know, because and it's just like, that's not who I am. You know, maybe in a personal setting, I could be pretty saucy, but like you said, bottom line up front, just the facts.
Just the facts. Just the facts. I do appreciate the interaction from your wife. Hopefully, we can get her on here too. I know you mentioned that she was prior service. The females per sec, the flip side of that coin, right? That would be a good saucy one, as you would say, Top. But I do appreciate you coming on, taking the time, being transparent, being honest. That's what everybody wants. It's just what is that you're going through, because it might be what I'm going through. But the only way we can sharpen iron is if we step in the forge and get hot, get a little bit dirty. And I appreciate you getting your hands dirty with me, so to speak, on the session. Tell me, you had how much? 27? You said 27 years? How many do? 23 years. I apologize. 23 years. Did you work after that? What did you do besides the contract? You had after three.
Well, I was contract 3.5 years, and then after we got here to Alabama, I worked as the operations manager for the state of Alabama for a pharmaceutical delivery service. The job sucked. It was 24/7 like the military. There would be times where I'd be up all day, then I'd have to go run a route at night. So there were a couple of times where I was up for 36, 37, 38 hours straight, you know, and it was just frustrating job. And then COVID hit, couldn't get anybody hired. And it finally got to the point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. It's bad for my mental health. I'm starting to regress and be angry all the time. And I wasn't really enjoying that at all. So, it was time to go. And then where we were at financially in our life, it was like, we're both disabled vets. I've got my military retirement, no house payment, no car payment, no bike payment. Why am I working?
Why are you working? Jesus.
So
You could just
that's
enjoying life. That's awesome.
That's exactly, and I like riding motorcycles. That's my hobby. And again, I said, if you know me well enough, my world revolves around my spouse. And again, she was on one of the social media sites, and she saw this motorcycle association, Combat Vet Motorcycle Association, and they were having their annual meeting in Colorado Springs. And they had a video of them doing the Pledge of Allegiance. She looks at me and says, these are the guys you need to join. So I started doing my research, got on their website, and says, basically, it's a bunch of dudes like me. I said, cool. So I did my thing, and I joined. And like I said, there's people like me who have been deployed who I could talk to. I'd call them up on the phone and say, hey, dude, I'm having some issues. I need some help. Just talk me through it. Because there's certain things I still don't want to tell my wife about what I did. She knows what I did, but it's just like somebody who's been there, seen some of the same stuff. Those are the guys I like to talk to. But it's been a great organization to be a part of. We enjoy riding. We're all about vets helping vets. Kind of scratches that itch of like we can raise money and donate it to some organizations around Alabama here. We have a veterans organization called Three Hots and a Cot. Then we donated $1,500 to before the holidays. And what they do is they help veterans get back on their feet. Great organization. Sojourn, which is they help out vets with mental health issues. We donated $1,500 to them. So that's what we're about. Vets helping vets. And in turn, it helps me out. That's all my combat vet brothers out too, and sisters. It helps us out. So it's been a great great organization to be a part of, and it's nice to have people there for each other.
Absolutely. I agree. I appreciate you coming on. I mean, I don't know. You covered everything I wanted to cover really quick. You didn't leave any room for any sauciness, but I'll ask you this here. We'll end it. I got one more question for you. Maybe this will get saucy for you, Dan. New Commander-in-Chief, how do you feel the dynamic of the country? Where are we moving forward? How do you feel about that one?
I'm very pleased with the direction. Because of the colors I'm wearing right now, kind of like being in the military, I can't really get political with my colors on. Okay? But I'm very pleased with the direction. I hope that we can only improve the direction.
I will say I've never had an Army soldier be the vice president.
Hey, listen, when you look at that guy's history, and how his childhood was and how he came up, hey, you heard the phrase, E4 Mafia, baby. E4 Mafia in full effect right there. So, yeah, it's just, we are the land of opportunity, and that right there shows you that we are, in fact, the land of opportunity.
That's really good. That's really good. Mic drop, Dan. I appreciate it. Look, where can they reach you at if they want to talk and know more about you and your family and what you're doing? Where can they reach you at?
Well, let's see. I'm on, I guess, Top 13 Zulu. Instagram, the same. And then, gosh, I forget what I'm on. And I'm on Facebook, too. Just look up Dan Tribble. You can see a picture of my wife and I,
I'll look you up here shortly.
Yeah. And, but I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate being very saucy, but, the opportunities for veterans is out there, both personal and professional, and just
send them my way.
Yeah.
Send them my way, Dan.
And, like I said, there's my wife and I now have side by sides, and just by chance happened to run into a retired Sergeant First Class Army who runs this place called Veterans Off-Road Riders. And they frequent one of the places that we go. So he's another veteran helping vets out. And they do some veteran rides, on off-road. So, like I said, I got my motorcycle, got my side-by-side. My wife and I go do things on. It's all about vets helping vets, baby.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G and Top, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast. And I'm all social media platforms. Let us know what we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism. Dan or Top, me and him, we out, ladies and gentlemen. Top, I'll talk to you later. I'll message you. Please be at the ready. I need a photo of you for sure.
All right, sir.
I got to share your sexy appeal. You know what I'm saying? Father figure. I'll talk to you later. Okay, Dan?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Have a good one, Gunny.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Stand by, contact. Ceasefire. Stand by, contact. Ceasefire.
Pit Talk is a podcast featuring active service members who discuss their thoughts and opinions on various issues surrounding military life, current events, and history. The statements heard here are the opinions of its members and guests. These do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense and are not endorsed or sponsored in any way. Listener, viewer discretion advised.